Welcome back, scholars. It is I, the Transformational Scientist, coming to you today to talk to you about AEW's Dynamite. Hopefully, you caught the watch along that I had a little bit earlier, as of course, that's where I'm going to be practicing my play by play. Here, I'm going to be doing a little more of the analytical review. I'm sorry I haven't been around for a bit. For the past 2 weeks, I've been working on some personal projects. I had 30,000 plus images that I needed to, find all the duplicates for. I took them from all the different places that I had photos, put them all together, ended up going through each and every one and sorted them as assets into different folders. So now, if I really need a subject matter like pictures of myself, my animals, my friends, my time in Taiwan or in China, when I was in Fulbright as a Teach for America member, whatever the case may be, I now have all my images sorted in one place. And in the future, I will just keep adding to it. And now that I have all these brackets, I can just meaningfully move things from one place to another and keep everything organized. Really, really important for me right now, especially since I have a few video projects that I have planned that will this benefits. I also had 6 or 7 terabytes of video files that I had to work through, and oh my gosh, I don't even want to get into it, but I had a little bit of a little bit of a foobar. Basically, at some point, I ended up deleting a good portion, in fact, all of my videos, and I had to figure out how to recover them. Once I recovered them, they were in this gigantic mess, so I had to put them all together, find the duplicates, go through the process of viewing each and every one and sorting those as well. So it's been a bit of a project. Now, after that was all done, I've been able to reinstall my computer, and you can't see it right now, but I also have started on reorganizing, cleaning up this studio space. I've moved everything from here to here. Maybe a little bit later, I'll show you the background that I'm working on. But currently, I'm using the green screen and my old classroom. It's not really my old classroom, but you get the point, scholars. And I'm doing all of this so that I can make better videos for all of us. And if you appreciate that, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe because it's through your effort, through your appreciation of what I bring to the table that allows me to grow. And hopefully, we'll all grow together. That's what learning is all about. Now, into the video itself. I did a lot of play by play on the watch alongs, and my watch alongs right now are built for me to practice doing play by play. And I got to tell you, after working all day and then doing that for 2 hours, I can tell you, and maybe you can see it in my face, but I'm a little bit exhausted. My plan right now is to do a watch along for Dynamite on Wednesdays, and then a video that'll come out on Wednesday night, likely Thursday day. Instead of doing possibly a watch along with Ring of Honor with some other people, but what I may do is just watch it on my own time, watch Rampage on my own time, or with King Leo, because I know he tends to watch SmackDown and then goes into Rampage, and then combine a review for Ring of Honor and Rampage since they're lower watch shows, and I think they're pretty low on the totem pole when it comes to Tony Khan's attention and ability to focus on. So I'll put those together, have that come out on a Saturday and Sunday. I enjoy Collision, but it's also a bit lower down on Dynamite is the A show, right? Dynamite is the A show. And recently to me, Collision has felt like Dark or Dark Elevation. And that's not a knock on it. It's basically a place where really good wrestling happens. Some stories maybe happen, but ultimately it feels like not really a self-contained spot, but a spot where the lesser stuff with high wrestling acumen goes on. So Saturday nights, I hope and pray that I get opportunities to go out and do things. So I think what I will do is instead of doing a live watch along, and for collisions, I do recommend going to Wrestle Tati's page as she does a watch along. But now let's talk about AEW's Dynamite. And first up, we had Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF, and Roosh. This was a particularly hard hitting affair. From my recollection, Roosh had the upper hand quite a bit in this match, and it was a really good show of what Roosh has always been able to do. He's always just been a tough as nails, kind of like a hard hitting. He's not what I think of as a typical luchador. He's not really a high flyer. He's more ground and pound. He's more get in your face, smash mouth, like just punch you in the face. And in fact, there were a few moments in this match where Roosh showed his cojones by just asking Max to hit him and pretty much no selling it and getting the upper hand multiple times. Now we got a bunch of Roosh being a big prick here, and this is the spot I really, really like when you have defined characters. Roosh is the bad guy in this. He's the one that is choking Maxwell Jacob Friedman out with a rope and whipping him on the floor. He bloodied Maxwell Jacob Friedman up. I should just call him MJF. He bloodied MJF up. You saw something had happened with his mouth. I'm hopeful it wasn't that he bit his lip or bit his tongue, but it didn't seem to be a lot of blood, just a bit around the mouth. It didn't take away from the match. It wasn't something like I was worried or in fear for what was happening to MJF. It was just one of those hard hitting, kind of brutal matches that, well, it was enjoyable. And I had really, really hoped that this match would have continued as a. I really had hoped that this wouldn't have been a one and done, but it feels like that's what they are hoping from this match. Towards the end of it, I believe Maxwell Jacob Freeman got a heat seeker, but he didn't just end it there. Now, they didn't bury Roosh here. They gave him an out. He got Maxwell Jacob Freeman did his heat sinker. If you don't know what a heat sinker is, it was when he gets someone in the ropes, he pulls them off so that their legs are dangling on the ropes, and he has them in a position where he can put him into a pile driver. It looks vicious. I personally really enjoy that finisher. But he didn't just stop there. He also got Roosh up and he put him into a brain buster and got the 1, 2, 3 pin. It was kind of interesting where Roosh hand came up and he put it on MJF's head. I thought he might kick out at like 3.1 or 3.2, but no, he just beat him. And Roosh very quickly rolled out of the ring, and that was it. I was hoping for a little bit more. I thought that they would do and roll this back, not at the pay per view per se, but I thought at the very least that they would have done another one next week. Going by what I saw here, I would have loved to have seen it, especially if in the second go around, if MJF had taken what he learned from Roosh this time around and he went at him with a little more, not ferocity, but if he kind of learned where Roosh was at and worked around it and was above Roosh a little bit more. Because in this match, Max was the babyface. He was the guy, although he gave a good back and forth with Roosh, ultimately he was there to get his butt beaten and to overcome from underneath. I think that's how they say it. One other thing about Roosh, he's a taunt machine. I really loved how he worked the crowd. He really, really kept coming up and making just the taunts. The taunts let people know that you're an absolute a-hole, and he does a wonderful job of it. The taunts throughout the match were some of the most enjoyable spots. Now, after the match, MJF was celebrating in the ring. The video pans over, and we get to see Hechicero. I'm practicing that. Hechicero and the Gates of Agony. I still don't quite understand how or why they're together. The other day, Brian Cage wasn't with the group, but Hechicero was with them. So very interesting. Not quite sure what's going on there. However, I really like Hechicero. And we learned that Hechicero and MJF are going to have a match at the pay-per-view. What if they did something where Roosh and MJF had the match. Oh, I don't really like disqualification, but in this instance, what if Hechiseto came in, messed things up for MJF, and then MJF says, "Okay, I'm going to get to you, but before I get to you, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to you, and I'm going to take Roosh again, and maybe a no holds bar match or something like really vicious for next week." I don't know if you could do because today the match that Roosh and MJF had, it didn't have any picture in picture. So I don't know if you could do that 2 weeks in a row, but it would have been an idea. MJF, you're doing it for a reason. MJF apparently sells. He puts butt in seats. Hopefully, we see with the ratings that there's going to be a nice little bump and an increase in viewership. We had a very good crowd. They were in a stadium. I forgot exactly where, but they were in a stadium of about 10,000 people with their setup. They had a few very good shots of the whole crowd tonight. I think it was 3,000 plus, at least close to that a few days beforehand. And with the walk ups, they typically do strong walk ups. The cheapest tickets are often the day of or the day before the shows themselves. So it's like AEW has trained their audience to wait a little bit. I have stopped doing that, but even I realize with the pay per view that's coming up, if I had waited, they opened up new sections for the camera side and the closer rows. I don't know if it would have been a better image or better path of sight, but they had closer rows that opened up, and I would have done that. So it's difficult to say. Do you wait for tickets? Do you get them when they first come out? I actually missed World's End because I was waiting till the last day for tickets, and they sold out before I even got to go, and that was a whole big thing. But anyway, I would have liked to have seen that and then maybe after, like he's like, I'm gonna do you for the pay per view. I'm gonna beat Roosh up next week. Don't know. They've gone this route. We'll see if MJ has something. But with 2 weeks, I'm guessing what they're gonna do is build with Hechiseto. They don't have a long time. It's only 2 weeks until the pay per view, so maybe this is just to expedite things. Thankfully, it doesn't look like Roosh is just going away. It seems like they do have something for him, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Oh, and we actually got to hear Hechiseto and Roosh, I believe, as well, speak Spanish during these matches. And I gotta say, as a person who knows a smattering of it, it's really been encouraging me to learn it so that I can, get a little bit more of, what people are saying. Chucha tu madre, something like that. I understand it, and when they say things with the viciousness of intent and feeling, I get it, but I want to understand a little bit. Then we got a review of Jack Perry and Dustin Rhodes. I'm shocked we haven't heard anything more from Dustin Rhodes. I was very curious if we would hear from him because with the last match, he pretty much said if he lost, he would give up wrestling. To me that sounded like it was a retirement match. Now they didn't make it official. He has been talking about it for a while, and the promo that he gave on Collision, holy jeez, he was thanking the camera guys, and he was really, really getting into it. It made it seem like, I don't know if it's just me, but if you think it was different, please let me know in the comments. But it made it seem like if he lost, he wasn't going to stick around. They're going to have to hopefully, tie a thread around that loose thread. No, that's not how you say it. But hopefully they'll come back to it so that we have an understanding. Because you don't really want Dustin to go out like it was a great way for him to go out. If you think about it, his first match was with his brother where he was beaten and bloody, and to go out on his last match where he's putting somebody over, all bloodied and beaten. That's kind of a pretty cool. What would you call that? Bookend. That's a pretty cool bookend to his AEW career, but we'll see. By the way, what was Jack looking for when he was going for his shoe? That was so distracting. Pretty decent match still. That whole shoe thing, I'm so curious. Will that come into play later on? I assume they wanted to figure a way for Jack to cheat to win, and eventually they figured things out. Sometimes things don't go well, and you just have to make applesauce out of lemonade. That's the wrong all right. So next up, we have a backstage promo where I thought Orange Cassidy didn't have friends, but apparently he's got a new one. He was so down in the dumps, but we're letting that go. I thought that would have been a good story. It's like I don't have any friends now. I have to do all these things alone. But I guess they realize they have something with these mixed tags, and I do say I really or four mans, eight mans. I really did enjoy last week's, and well, we'll talk about the one that's coming up. But it was also a pretty high energy, enjoyable match. Here we got Mark Briscoe again giving us his crazy country bumpkin promo style, and again Kyle O'Reilly. Just look at the man. I was looking at him the whole time. I watched this twice actually because I realized like my focus kept shifting. Like I just wanted to look at Kyle O'Reilly and his reaction. And as he said at the end, he would follow that man anywhere. And that's just the kind of thing with Mark Briscoe being able to go. He's like a Kingston. If you've heard Kingston, they are able to give promos at a drop of a hat. You give them a subject matter and they just go. They go with whatever's in their heart and their soul. They've been doing it for a long, long time. So even if it's a bit wonky, whatever, it's got a lot of heart and a lot of feeling to it. And interestingly enough, during this, so I didn't even put this together previously, but that we had the whole Jack Perry thing before, and while this was going on, Jack Perry comes in, but he doesn't do what typically they used to do in AEW, and I hope they've gotten away from it. They used to do a lot of interruptions, like, hey, I'm right here. Someone is right off of camera. They come in. Now I pay attention to them and we interact. Like, it's so not natural, and I'm happier seeing something like this where Jack Perry just strolled through the shot, looked at everybody, and just was like, huh, okay. And of course, it played a little bit into what happened a little bit later on. I'm hoping that they continue this. I really like when they're threading different segments throughout the night, showing you what's important and showing it by repeating these things. Huh, I just noticed. Renee looks very nice in her simple white outfit. I think this shot, by the way, is right after Jack Perry walks through. Kyle O'Reilly. I'm so glad he's on television. AEW has too many stars that I love. So many stars that are in a realm where they're just not being beaten and they beat others, and then so many others who just get beaten. It's a weird parody or lack of parody. But regardless, I do appreciate seeing someone like Kyle O'Reilly on my television stage, my television. I do appreciate getting to see someone like Kyle O'Reilly, who I really, really have been enjoying quite a bit, and hopefully he'll get elevated, and some characters that we've seen a lot will get, pushed to the bottom a little bit. Not that saying that they will be stomped out or I want to see them off my screen, but I would love to see some people like Kyle O'Reilly, and I think he does have a story going on, which is, by the way, a little. I know he was fighting Mark Anthony. Mark Anthony. I feel like that's incorrect, but he was fighting one of the workhorsemen on the last week's collision. I get that that fellow is not at the level of Kyle O'Reilly. But for Kyle's story of losing, maybe it's just losing the big ones, but losing, and that hopefully, but that breaking his spirit and him moving towards, well, someone that he was fighting against. I just realized that that story would have continued. I thought it was a real interesting choice to have him win there, but this is something that I'm okay with letting it play out because I do feel this one of the stories that I enjoy, especially for you AEW doesn't have no story people. Well, this is a story that I've been enjoying. Briefly, there's a sign in the audience here for Sammy. I'm okay without seeing Sammy. Just me personally. Just me personally. And I just realized there's also a sign that says what what the f is a PLE. Killing it with sign. Are these anyone famous? Like I realized they had a not a long shot, but they hung on these people for a little bit. Are these anyone in particular? Anyone? If you know, please let me know in the comments because it just I'm so curious. Okay, so now we had a kind of a face to face with Osprey and Swerve Strickland. Wish I had taken notes during this, but from my recollection, we had Osprey talking about how he has won championships in multiple promotions. I think he was held three different championships at the same time in three different promotions internationally, and was explaining how he knows what it's like to be a champion. Whereas Swerve Strickland retorted, he is the AEW champion and he is a mogul outside of the AEW ring itself. He also does stuff in music and acting. He's got his own podcast. He's a multiple talented performer. It's not just in the world of AEW or wrestling itself that he has found success. This worried me. This worried me just a little bit because he was saying that Osprey talks about if and if, and that he doesn't Swerve doesn't live by ifs. But what he mentioned was that if he did, or if there, right? If he were to lose the belt itself, it, he's even if he lost it, he would still have those things outside of wrestling. And I'm like, is that the point you want to make? Like, does that matter in your mind? Do you care about having like? Wouldn't it be I have the belt. F all that other stuff, right? I have the belt. I'm keeping the belt. So that was a little strange to me. I can't imagine his telegraphing because it went back and forth. And I gotta say, Swerve was pretty strong here with his feeling and emotions. It was so interesting seeing like the laid back slacker Osprey, where he had his hat back and he came out with the ruffled hair and he was kind of dressed down, holding his gold, which he needs to let go sometime. He came out a little bit later holding it, and I'm like, you don't need it all the time, bro. Put it down. But I guess if you have it, you don't want to put it down unless someone pick it up. So okay, I understand because that has happened to people before, as I understand. Jericho. For Swerve, he explained that he doesn't have any friends anymore. He has given up everything in a pursuit of gold, and it was kind of interesting for him to acknowledge that he had people alongside of him, Keith Lee, the cage of sorry, what was it? The Mogul Embassy, what was previous to Mogul Embassy. Like he said, and it's really interesting that he said this with his man Nana standing right there. He said that his road to his glory is littered with the souls of people who he said goodbye to because in attaining such a height, and I don't necessarily agree with this, I understand that people believe in this, but for him to do what he has done, he has needed to be ruthlessly aggressive. Oh, I tried very hard to work that in there. It didn't really work. Anyway, but he had to be ruthless. He had to just walk through the path, walk through the fields of fire, and to do it as he chafed away, culled, if you will, friends and relationships. And while he was doing this, he even spoke to Osprey and asked him, would he be willing to, let go of, walk over his wife and his child. And that's something that particularly pissed off Osprey. He asked, do you really want to make this personal? Do we need to make this personal? And it was pretty cool because Osprey thought he was done with what he needed to say. He was gone. But Swerve's like, nah, 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 nah. Prince, nah, 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 nah. Cut off that noise. Cut off that his music, his Osprey, Osprey, oi, oi, oi. What if I want to make it personal? And he invoked the name of Osprey's son, and Osprey got back into the ring, all heated and angry. Got into not sorry, got into Swerve's face, really aggressive, really interesting, and I'm still unsure ultimately where things are going to go. I'm trying to take a back seat and just let it happen because at the moment it feels like either of these people can win. Swerve, no, sorry, Prince Nana eventually took the mic. I forgot if it was the first section or this section, and he basically said, "Guys, no, it was before this," but he was saying to them, and it was really good hearing Nana speak. He has been a manager. You know, that was his thing. He has taken a back seat of speaking to Swerve, but his primary role used to be talking, and that's a good spot for him. And it felt natural when he came out. And he was like, "You guys, you know, you gotta chill. You gotta pay, you know, rest yourselves, focus yourselves. Your mission is that match. So, you know, chill out, bros. Chill the F out. Or chill the F out, bros." I believe Nana said something else that made the crowd really happy, but I forget. Oh, can I just say it was a real nice comparison between the two of them? Like Swerve, look, just he wasn't dressed crazily. He wasn't like over the top. He just had simple gear on, matching gold except for the watch. But you know, what are you gonna do when you have something that bling bling? But he had this outfit put together. When he came out, like he looks like a champion. And I think that was a part of it. I wouldn't say that Swerve expresses this because of any insecurity or inferiority feelings of inferiority, uh, but he presents himself as a champion, and perhaps with what we're seeing here, that's what's being presented to us. Like, I'm a champion. Like, people effing love me, from the grills to the glasses to the hair. He's styling. He's what people would say has Riz, you know, like he is just something. And people effing love Osprey. I love Osprey. But if it came between Osprey and Swerve, which it is, I'm with Swerve. I'm with Swerve. I'm still with Swerve right now. There's nothing that I love Osprey. I appreciate what he's done and what he's been. I appreciate the loud sounds that come out when he comes out and addresses the crowds. I love it. But for me, Swerve's my man. Swerve's my man. Oh yeah, an interesting thing that came up during this was when Swerve mentioned, would Osprey need his family to come out and help him? It was weird because at the moment I forgot that it's Don Callis's family, that they're called the family, I guess. I don't really think of them like, you know, Godfather type thing. You know, when it comes to the family, it's not. It's they don't have that kind of flavor to them. So it caught me off guard, and then when they showed the family, it made me realize. Can I just say I don't think there's a need for Don Callis. I don't feel like he has been helping anybody, being the mouthpiece for the overall group. You know, I don't see the benefit in him uh, and elevating the people around him. Like, I love the look of, oh, what's his name? Orange Cassidy's old friend, Trent. Trent Beretta. I love Trent's new look. It looks like he's growing out his hair a little bit. He's got the beard going. He looks good. He looks like what Roderick Strong. I imagine he is what Roderick Strong would look like in a suit, and I feel like he would fit Taven and Bennett and Strong together. Honestly, here he's just been there, and nothing has happened. You would have thought that he would have had an even stronger. He lost his series of matches with Orange Cassidy he's lost, and now he's just there. It's not even like he's been sent on a mission to Ring of Honor to beat anybody up, or he's like, you know, featuring on Rampage, or even getting matches on Collision. He's just there as a guy in a suit, not even a suit, business casual, looking good but not doing anything. And then you have Takeshita, and Kyle Fletcher. And even though Kyle Fletcher has gold, you could argue that it's not really due to Don Callis because he pretty much did that on his own. In Ring of Honor, you don't see Callis, you don't see Takeshita, you don't see the person that I just mentioned. But at the end of this, I believe during the promo for Osprey, he mentioned that something about the family, how he doesn't need them, and that seemed to piss Don Callis off a little bit. Don Callis goes off to Keshta, who seems very close with Fletcher. I wish they would do something where they show their interaction a little bit more. But the Takeshita, Beretta, and Callis, they went off on their own, and we were left to wonder what was going on in Kyle Fletcher's mind. He was just standing there and just kind of looking off into the sunset, which you probably wouldn't be seeing because you're all inside. Whatever. I wonder if there's something going to come about of it where later on we have Fletcher and Osprey get back together, perhaps with the other fellow who's out. I can't think of his name. That big brute of a guy who hurt his wrist and has been out for a while. But maybe they'll come back together. They were together in New Japan and in the British Rev Pro, I think. But they were a unit before this whole Don Callis stuff came about. So maybe something is brewing there. They're giving you little breadcrumbs, and it's something that I think we're going to have to wait to see. All right, so next up we had that 8-man tag. We have, who do we have here? Mark Briscoe, Dante, Orange Cassidy, Kyle Fletcher. No, Kyle O'Reilly. Then in the ring you have Kyle Fletcher, Takeshita, Zack Sabre Jr. Oh my gosh, he's awesome. And you have Roderick Strong. Look, honestly, in this match, for parts of it, it felt like Orange Cassidy was a little bit under the level of all the others. Like, I think there was a drop kick that he missed, or at least like it looked like it came up short. It looked like he came up short, but the camera angles on it kind of hit it. The shtick at the very beginning was very noticeable because of the ferocity. I think I used that word already, but we're doing it again. Of the other members, but at the same time, it was a nice play to see it. Shockingly, and just to cut it all out, cut out the middleman, get straight to the point. Cassidy got the pin here. And I don't know. I can't really think of. I was trying to think like who I would have liked to have seen get the pin here. Wasn't necessary for the faces to do so. I don't know. I couldn't even think of all the different stories that have been going around. You have the story of um, Takeshita, Dante, and our man of the hour, Mr. Kung Fu, Redneck Kung Fu. I'm sorry, guys, I'm pretty tired. But all of three of them, they're already in the TNT ladder match, right? You have Orange Cassidy, who I forget if they said beforehand, but he's going to be fighting with Zack Sabre Jr. You have Roderick Strong, who wants Kyle O'Reilly to join him and is hoping that he will eventually lose. And his team won this time, so that's technically a win for him. It's strange. I don't quite know what's going on with that. And then you have Kyle O'Reilly, who was on a losing streak, but is doing a little bit better now that he's fighting with his friends. Oh, that's a strange one right there. And Kyle Fletcher, I'm sure he's going to be doing something for Ring of Honor. His story is more with what we saw just a little bit earlier. But anyway, what can I say about this match? This match was fun. I really enjoyed it. It felt like it was slow at the beginning, but it started picking up towards actually, I guess the first quarter out of it, and there's just a lot of fun stuff going on. You got Dante Martin with his high flying stuff, Orange Cassidy with his super slacker. It was really great seeing Kyle O'Reilly in there with Zack Sabre Jr. Probably my favorite spots, apart from seeing Mr. Ruff Ruff. Why am I blanking on his name? He's right there, Mr. Dem Boys. Can't think of it. Sorry, everybody. But anyway, it was really, really. I think my favorite parts was seeing Kyle O'Reilly with Zack Sabre Jr., Fletcher, Takeshita, pretty much with anybody, and Mark Briscoe. There we go. Mark Briscoe coming in and doing some of his save spots. Like, shit, give me this. Give me this. Just feed me this. Just feed me this. This is the benefit of them having so many wrestlers, coincidentally, in AEW. Uh, and it just works. It works to see all these different magical pieces. I don't think it was as strong as I think it was the six man last week. It was without Dante Martin and Zack Sabre Jr., but this was good stuff. Before we move on, I have to say Matt Taven and Mike Bennett, great, great wingmen. And not to group the wingman because that's over now. That's okay. But I mean, really great guys on the outside. I don't. Mike Bennett just if you catch him, he's just up there jumping around. And I'm just noticing if you look in the background, that one guy. In fact, there's two people. They're checking their cell phones. What are you doing, people? Are you just texting and being like, "Oh no, OJ won again"? Anyway, but those guys are ridiculous. I would rewatch this match just to see if I can catch them and enjoy like their freaky deaky jumping up and down this because they are wonderful. So if you were watching with the during the watch along, I noticed that they had Dante. He was leaving by himself earlier than everybody else. People were still in the ring and they were kind of like shuffling around. I'm like, what's the reason for this? Or are they going to do something in the ring? Uh, I wasn't I wasn't expecting um, Jack Perry coming out and blindsiding Dante Martin. I wasn't expecting it, so it was an interesting surprise. It was nice to see. And then eventually Takeshita, who will also be in the ladder match for the TNT belt, he got into it with Mark Briscoe, and they fought to the back. And while they were going to the back, you got a little bit of time for Orange Cassidy and Zack Sabre Jr. to kind of do a little bit of a face-off before Zack Sabre Jr. backed off and went on his own. It would have been nice to see him just punch him or something, but this I don't know if that's his style, or at least cut a promo. Probably would have been tired, probably would have been winded. Don't know if you want to put people in a spot, but I like listening to Zack Sabre Jr., so that would have been fun for me. But this was interesting and fun, and it was cool to see after this match of everybody coming together, kind of how they went off and they fought, and you saw a little bit of the developments for the pay per view that's coming up in 2 weeks, which I will be going to. So next up, we got a training video slash promo from Mercedes Monet, and as I was saying on the watch along, I don't typically care for women who are. She's not skinny. She's thin. Um, I don't typically care for thinner women, but I have to say she is a marvelously attractive woman. And you saw in this video the work that she puts in order to. She doesn't. She seems very petite, but with the work that she was putting in, god dang, she has to be pretty strong. And it just, she for whatever reason, she just doesn't have that bulk and muscle mass that others may have. But she makes it work for herself, and I have no, I'm not putting any kind of stink on her name because she works. If I put the work that she put in, I would be just a beast. So it's impressive what she does in order to maintain her strength and to be the wrestler that she is. This was just a little bit of a video for the upcoming match. Interested, but there's not really much to say other than that. It was done well. It was done well. as far as training montages go. And what I really liked was her wrestling sparring partner was someone in a mask. Don't know if they were a luchador or not, but that was fun to see because you can say that she's practicing for that lucha style. Mm. So as I mentioned earlier, the at least they're not just leaving Roosh and saying, "Okay, you got beat, goodbye." This was really well lit. I have to say, I enjoyed how this was shot, the colors and everything. We start with Roosh, where a shot of his back. He's apparently upset, pensive. A hand comes in, touches him on the shoulder. It's Don Callis. Where's that going? I'm hoping that it's not someone for the family. I'm hoping that they use this as a way to get Roosh into a match with Osprey. That from whatever the machinations are, like it's like Don Callis, I see how strong Roosh. I can't do a Don Callis. I'll practice. I should. I will try. I will try to do voices and people, but for now, we're just gonna let it go. But Don Callis, I hope that is something like I see what you can do. I respect you. You beat the f out of people. Please be my hitman. Just take Osprey down a peg, and go for that belt or something. I don't know. It seems weird because freak man, he already has three people. Takesha's in something. Kyle Fletcher is probably going to do something for the Ring of Honor pay per view. And is he going to be on the AEW pay per view? I don't think so, and that's okay. But like, man, you got Trent freaking Beretta. Like, use him. Use Trent freaking Beretta, and use Roosh in a. Don't use Roosh. Don't use Roosh. Just find another story for Roosh. In fact, where is Roosh's group? I don't think we're gonna have Preston Vance anymore, but he does have friends with it. I mean, shit, come on. It's enough luchadors, although they're not at the same level of Roosh. Like you think of a Gravity, not a Gravity, or a Commander. But if you could find someone to build, and why does it have to be Mexicans, Latinos, Spanish, Hispanic? Why do you have to have groups? That's so lazy. And I find myself doing that. Like, why couldn't we find some? Like maybe like AR Fox, Roosh, and not Preston Vance because he's already gone. Cage has got somebody. Cage would be fun. Shit, Cage would be fun. A returning Miro. I don't know, but like something different and like a mixed group. I'm tired of seeing groups that are all the same type. If you understand what I'm saying, I think we can get away from that. Anyway, this is a to be continued. Not very much here. Again, very well shot, lit, and Roosh gave his boo boo face. Here's Stank. He's not Stank, but he gave us. Listen, short segment. We're just gonna keep moving on. Oh, okay, all right. I forgot that we were gonna get a match with the Young Bucks. Like it was the top of the hour, and I was like, what's going on? I thought they were gonna come out and do a talk or something, but they came out and Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, and then the Acclaim came out. Completely forgot. I forget what these matches are called. Basically, it's a match for a chance for the title. Oh, and to give it away, the Acclaim won. The Acclaim won. But before all of this happens, Max Caster comes out, and I want to hear his raps. I like to hear his raps. I don't think of him as a face. I really think he's moving towards a heel. He's the villain in his own story. But as he was coming out and he was starting his rap, somehow the mic goes out. This time it's not an AEW production problem. And they haven't had production issues too much, like poor camera work, or I guess that counts. But their overall production haven't been as problematic as previously, but it did make me think, like, what happened? Where's the sound? Although later on, I lost all sound for maybe a second. that was a weird thing. I don't know if it was Triller. I don't know if it was AEW. Don't know. But that was weird. But here, the sound on the mic goes out. And as you can tell, Matthew and Nicholas are like, heh heh heh, what's going on? We cut to the back. Okada is like pressing buttons. He's like, oops, I pressed the wrong button. Sorry. Not sorry, bitches. Like something like that. And like, oh God, fuck me, I love Okada. Man, oh me, I love me some Okada. I love me some Okada. So the match itself, I enjoyed this. I don't know if I'm not spoiled. Like I don't have the breadth of um, matches like history to be tired of the Young Bucks. And within this, I feel like the person I was really watching wasn't the Matthew and Nick. They were doing some really great stuff in this, but for me, it was really seeing not oh, Anthony Bowens. Anthony Bowens. To me, the person in this was Anthony Bowens. And as I said in a review, or sorry, as I said in a watch along, Anthony Bowens is someone that I can imagine splitting off from the acclaimed and having success. I don't know if Tony Khan sees it. I don't think Tony Khan saw the acclaimed as anything more than, although I don't know who to blame here. The acclaimed grew and they became a sensation on their own, and they became inevitable. Like there was a match that they had with Swerve and Our Glory where if you were watching it, you would have just said, put the belts on him. Call an audible, even if you had a plan for this, put the belts on him. And at the post show, it was just like, oh, like maybe they do deserve a rematch. I can't imagine it would be a great time to do it in like New York, their hometown, which was a great idea, and it was fine. But it was another moment where I felt TK has missed momentum. Sometimes I'd be fine with going with what the crowd is crying for. I believe like the match before Swerve won the belt, like people were so into him, whether you thought he deserved it or not at that period of time. He was just undeniable. He had just had that ridiculous series of matches with Handman Adam Page, and like just you gotta feel it and go with it. And the same thing happened with the acclaimed. Now the acclaimed did get the belts on them, but it seemed like instead of them being this tag team where it's like, okay, it's about skill and everything, it became, oh, it's about the gimmick. We are here to pop you, let you feel good. And people still like that. People still love the scissoring, it seems. They're not hated by the audience, but it's not. I always felt like personally that they were strong wrestlers, especially Bowens. And one of the benefits of having them is having them in there and really, really, and letting them be a strong tag team. I don't feel currently that they're at the level of even a Young Bucks. This match helped me remind me how good they were, especially Bowens, who was battling with a leg problem throughout. He didn't have kinesio tape; he had it wrapped up, and that was a big, a big X marks the spot. Like, please beat up this body part. It's already damaged. Just go for it. And he had to overcome a lot, and he built it into his. He is a great sympathetic baby face. Like he fights from underneath quite a bit. I don't know if it's quite a bit, but when he does it, it's just staggering. So there were times in which he wanted to do something. Like he has a series of moves where he just punch, punch, kicks, kicks, punch, punch. But he went from punch, punch, kick, but because of the leg, he like fell out a little bit, and it was a chance for Matthew and Nicholas to like swarm on him. At one point, they tried to do their EVP trigger on him. He got out of it, but there was a lot of that jockeying. Ultimately, however, as opposed to their whole hum matches, the acclaim were able to, feature themselves, and a lot of it was Bowen showing his heart, then becoming the face and Pearl, then getting the tag, but ultimately having it be on Bowens. And it's really, really, I mean, for me, it was good that Daddy Ass wasn't in this because I feel Daddy Ass personally brings the group down quite a bit, honestly. Like when they were doing trios, you would have all this magic going on with Bowens and Max Caster kind of working with him. Good synergy. But they would work for the hot tag, and it was always to Daddy Ass. He would come in, and then he'd be Superman, you know, just beating everybody up, and it was just like, I'm. I know there are fans of Daddy Ass out there. I'm okay with him personally going on his retirement run. I do feel like he may have been the thing that took away because it became like oh scissor me daddy the chance to chair the cheers. It became more less of the work rate, which is what I think about AEW when I think of why I like it so much. I like the wrestling, and it became like not a comedy act, but they were really really close to a comedy act. You know, they were really really close to a comedy act. And Daddy Ass, he is a bit pretentious and his whole suck it stuff, and I don't know. Like what would work, I think, is if Max Caster, Daddy Ass became a tag team, Bowens went off his own or found somebody else, because Max Caster is more of a heel and Daddy Ass is somewhat obnoxious. Built, still can do things in the ring, but I'm still hurting over how he demolished Jay White and like those memories, right? Those memories stick with you. And Jay White has had to overcome that. He's in the Owen Hart tournament, and like he's still overcoming like that stink of that match. So, Daddy Ass, Daddy Ass, maybe it's time to give up your proctologist boots and go somewhere else. All right, and something else that I'm really, really, really enjoying: Hook and Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe gave a bit of a dig to New Yorkers about how much we talk. Anyway, listen. I'll take it. I'll take it. As a New Yorker, got a bunch on us, Joe. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. But it this is a good pairing. This is probably one of the best pairings of like mentor mentee I've seen. Like, the learning tree could take some notes from this. Basically, they were going in and they were going to, just mess up the what are they called? The ones that they I don't want to disrespect them. Oh, the premier athletes. That's right. So they were going to go and they were going to mess up the premier athletes, and they were like, he's like, all right, we're going to go in there, so I need you to be a little extra because I'm tired of dealing with these jerk butts, okay? And like Hook is like, okay, okay, and so like they open the door, and he goes in, and Hook is like, it's time for the boom, something stupid, and they're not there. Mark Sterling left the note for them, basically saying like, I knew you guys were gonna try to do this dumb stuff, so instead of that, I want you to do a 3-on-3. See your butts on, I think, Collision. Um, so we're gonna get that match. The cool thing is, it's not it's two of them, but this is one of those times where the invisible camera is not the invisible camera. It's actually sorry everybody, I can't think of his name, but basically he also used his recorder to say that he is going to be beating them up this collision as well. Funny segment. If you haven't seen it, just find a time to watch it. This is how I feel AEW should be doing their humor and comedy in segments like this. It doesn't have to be, you know. Actually, I don't care either way. I liked the MJF, Adam Cole bits that they did. I know that they were up and down in quality, but I enjoyed it. It was just interesting content. Yeah. So anyway, this I feel is pretty strong. Where you have like moments like this, and this gives character to the relationship between Joe and Hook. Like, just look at them. Please keep going with this. This is a good spot for Hook. If he's going to be here for a while, let him do this, and hopefully, eventually, he'll come out to. Since he's from New York, he'll come out to House of Glory Wrestling, where I will be seeing Swerve. By the way, Swerve will be fighting Amazing Red. Didn't need that. I already have my ticket, front row. See you there, babies. Sorry, scholars. You're all my scholars. Not my scholars. You're all just scholars, but thank you, scholars. So next up we have Mariah May and Mina. I don't want to say her last name because when I'm not looking at it, I'm going to mess it up. One of the reasons why I've been doing streams is so that I can practice names and that I can get used to speaking about different wrestlers that I haven't really seen. And Mina is someone like that. And we had Mina, Tony Storm. Gotta say, Tony Storm was killing it in her fishnets, but they both had wonderful. They all looked wonderful. In fact, I don't really pay much attention to Mariah May, but she looked ridiculously lovely. And, like, it was so not necessary for a sit down thing, but like Swerve, I appreciate it when they do, bring up their attire game because I have like just scattered brain professor going on. I tend to hope for women to come along and touch me with their fashion sense. Some of my best stylings was when I was with people who had a sense of what they like to see in their man, and it kind of worked with who I am as a person. Totally fine with that. So if anybody's out there and you want to come with me to Kohl's, I don't know, wherever we could go to pick up clothing, we'll do that. Thrift shops and everything. I'm cool with it. So anyway, there wasn't much to this. They came out. I think the biggest thing was Mina basically told Mariah that she had to choose. And while this was happening, I thought Tony Storm was on the microphone, but it was Soraya came out. I feel that's right. But anyway, Soraya. Ah! I think Soraya came out, and she came out with, oh, who's that other woman? Can't think of her name now, but the one that had put Soraya into the Owen Hart tournament, and they were together. So it was interesting. She came out. She was all upset. She was like, "I don't want to hear this. Stop it." They're continuing Soraya. They're continuing her story where she's just like, Tony, what the f is going on here? I really don't like this. And shockingly, with no real explanation, but they had Anna Jay blindside Mariah May. I forgot who she hit, but she came out from the blind side, and it should have been Mariah May. I think she knocked her over, and that was interesting. That was out of the blue. What has Anna Jay been doing ever since the JAS ended without any real blow off, without any real anything, which is sad. Jericho, you could have put Daniel over, but since then, Anna Jay's been on her own. She's had a few matches. She's looked good. Yeah, she's looked good, and she hasn't really had a story or anything. But now it looks like they're pairing or tripling Soraya up with Soraya with someone so that they can have a 3-on-3 because I believe Soraya is going to be fighting against Mariah May in the Owen Cups tournament. Then you have Tony and Mina. They will be fighting at the pay-per-view. And so then you have, well, you don't have really anybody else, but maybe, well, you don't have anybody else, but, yeah, you don't have anybody else. Those are the overall stories. But Soraya has someone who can help, but she already had someone. In any case, this is going to be a 3-on-3. I think they already set up the match. I think it's for Collision, maybe Dynamite. Not quite sure. We'll find out a little bit later. It's It's there if you need it. I'm okay with this. Three powerful women going against three powerful women, and it's one of those things where it's like, can they work together? And in a situation where it's really, can they work together? Because they're fighting over the love, and it's so interesting. It's not just the love, and it was so weird. Mina was like telling Mariah May to shut up, and then like going in on Tony, and then Tony was like, "Don't you talk to her like that?" Being very motherly, and I don't know. It's an interesting triangle, and it'll be very curious to see where this all goes. I'm actually very curious. After the pay per view, I can imagine it'll be a very interesting. Oh, that's something. Mina was telling Tony that she's become soft. That really seemed to struck a chord with Tony, and I really liked that. I really liked that she was really digging at her as being a strong champion. But now that she's in AEW with all this going on, she's soft. And that was when, or no, it came a little bit later. But I wonder if that also plays into what's going with Soraya with her whole storyline. Oh, and for the language learners out there, in Asian languages, oftentimes, I know my Taiwanese students had a problem with this, but they don't have that L sound. L, like that's very difficult for an Asian speaker. L, we take it for granted. But if you heard Mina when she was speaking, she would say something like "grr" when she means girl, right? Or they would say "love" versus "love," right? And I hope no one gives her any grief about that. It's an inflection, or I guess inflection, but it's just something that comes about because those sounds aren't formed naturally in their languages. So as second language learners of English, and their English is pretty strong, but as a speaker of English, when you don't have that sound and you're not like it's not drilled into you as a kid, you have what's called fossilized speech pattern. It's like a pattern that is so ingrained that unless you consciously fight and overcome it, it's very difficult to change. Some would say near impossible, but it's not. It just would take so much effort. It's like if you never brush your teeth for years and then at the age of 92 you decided one day that you want to try to get a pattern of it, like you're so not used to something, or the other way around, you're so used to like rubbing your nose every time you said hello, and then one day you said I don't want to do that anymore, and you just try to say hello. It's going to be super difficult because you're so used to the pattern. It's fossilized, it's ingrained to you. Just a little language stuff as a second language learner and as a transformational scientist. I'm hoping to bring a little bit of clarity because I can imagine people out there making fun of her and saying, "Why doesn't she speak more American?" or "What's wrong with her accent?" or "Why is it this or that?" That's the ignorance of humans, more so Americans, but just people, right? That's just ignorance that we hope that we change as we talk about things with mutual respect in these reviews. Soraya is very attractive. Soraya. Haley Cameron, that's the other one. There you go, Haley Cameron. So after this, we got a little video package from Castanoli and Pac. Very, very simple. And it was interesting to see this. I wondered if they were kind of like, I like the production of this. I like seeing this. It was really nice to set up the match afterwards. But I was wondering, like, you're really laying this on thick. Someone had mentioned that Claudio Castagnoli having Danielson being on comms, being on commentary for the match was a giveaway that Claudio was going to lose. I don't know why. Okay, he did lose. Spoilers. But, I felt like this package more than anything else because he was really, really going in on, you know, just I don't know, just it was going so strong, and we didn't get a response. There was no version that I can remember from Pac. I'm gonna call him Pac. I really like Pac better, but there's no version from Pac that I saw where there was a response to it. So I was like, oh, you're going really hard on this. Why? Is this the way for him to save face? All right, so we have one of the opening matches for the Owen Hart tournaments, the female brackets, and we had Statlander coming out with Stankley, who I feel like it's a nice reverse of I wanted to say Swerve and I guess in a sense Swerve and Nana and some of the others, but like he's a full on manager, and we don't have a lot of managers here in AEW, and they don't always get a chance to speak for their charges, so it's kind of fun. And there's a moment here where Statlander like lifted Stankley and put him onto the first step while he got into the ring. He's a good hype man for her. And yeah, this was an okay match. I felt a little undermined by this because we haven't seen we haven't even gotten a chance to see Nyla get one of those squash matches on a Rampage or Collision, unless I missed something because I haven't been fully engaged with Rampage recently. To be honest, I have tried to go back and catch episodes that I missed, but it sucks because I don't even remember sometimes the ones that I have missed. So but I tried to think like, when have we seen Nyla Rose recently? The last time was in Ring of Honor, and Ring of Honor doesn't count. Ring of Honor is just it's like it. Ring of Honor exists in another dimension, right? You go to that dimension, you can win. You can be strong. You can be fierce. You leave that dimension, you come into this dimension, you're going to lose ultimately, and it's a bit of a dead giveaway, which sucks. It honestly sucks to have this opening match not be between someone like an Anna Jay could have fit here because at least you've seen her on the shows, although she did go to Ring of Honor and win there. So by the virtue of the Ring of Honor, I don't want to say vortex dimension coming back, she would have lost here. So okay, not her, but the point is, we haven't seen Nyla Rose in a long, long, long time. She comes back. Naturally, she's a face against Chris Statlander, who's the heel here. People want to boo Chris Statlander because she has been a real bitch to Willow. So you have that dynamic, but I felt like it was difficult for the crowd to get into this, and all respects to the artists in the ring because they brought the crowd into it a few times. And this was almost a dead spot. They kind of did something a little bit weird, but this was enough of the dead spot that this was the dead spot, the spot where they put women into. And it's like they're training. Like we're all have been trained to treat these matches as if they're less than or don't matter. And then you have someone who hasn't been on TV for a while. She hasn't even gotten like a squash win or anything to kind of set her up. They didn't even do anything like that for her. And then she comes into this and it's just like, is she going to win? No, she's not going to win. No one expects Nyla Rose to win here. Funny woman, lovely woman. Like if you, the few things that I see on X are typically from her, and she's hilarious. Is her and Abaddon, and I love the both of them. Yeah, sorry, that's a little bit of a tangent. But here, I don't know. The match was okay. Um, match was okay. It wasn't the worst, but I just felt like the crowd had a rough time getting into it. It was weird seeing Nyla Rose coming back after a long time, and it just seemed like a vehicle for Statlander to elevate and move on to the next level. or move on to the next bracket. Like this was just the stepping stone. This was too much like the secondary women's title that they have in Ring of Honor, where in the first match they just had people who don't matter. Whereas in the men's brackets, those are much stronger. And they have Jeff Jarrett in there. And when I saw that, I was like, wait, Jeff Jarrett? But they must have heard the cynicism of the people in the crowd, in the world at large. Because the next thing you heard was Shivani saying the reason why Jared is in it is because he was a good close personal friend of Owen Hart. And I was like, oh, okay. If you're gonna say that, fine, justified, justified. But those brackets seem to have more parity. His has got a weird wild card thing. I'm guessing they're gonna bring someone in like could be a Starks. Could be a Starks. Could be a Starks. We'll see. But here, and I have to look at the brackets again to really, really say if I feel that way throughout. But it just doesn't. I mean, it feels like AEW's women division has a buttload of star power. Like there are good threads and good things going on, but it's still getting the short thrift. You know, it still doesn't feel like it's getting the attention and the love that other divisions are getting. Okay, that's it for it. I'm probably going to harp on this again. So yes, and this was all to set up a video package. Don't really remember too much of it. Good to see Will on the screen. She gets a pop even when she's just on the video. But pretty much it's setting up. That they're going to be at least fighting to get into the finals. I don't think it needs to be so what do you got? Forecasted, foreshadowed. Maybe something will change up, but Willow is last year's champion. Last year's champion. So you know, she's declaring herself as a winner. Hopefully Starks gets to do the same thing. It would be really Stark says he wants to wrestle. He doesn't understand why he hasn't been wrestling. Tony Khan says he loves Starks and he would love a chance to work with Starks. And he is the boss and promoter of a company. So you'd have to assume that he has the ability to just put him in there. Is there something else going on? Don't know, but we will have to see. Two words. Delicious. That's not the word. Okay, that's two words. Delicious cheesecake. Technically three words, but our last word's a compound word, so it's really one word. Delicious cheesecake. Take the cheese, take the cake, put them together. It's a whole new thing. Cheesecake. Look at that man, just staring down at the camera. He only did two things: stared at the camera, stared at Renee. Love this man. Love this man. Don't even remember. Oh, that's right. Uh, what I will say, what I will say is, I think this week Brian Keith's angry black man didn't come off. Last time, like if you, what did he say? Something like, if you guys want good corn, you better respect Jericho. That was funny. This here, he didn't really have it. Big Bill, kind of something about first impressions. He's not as enjoyable as I've seen him before. And Jericho, to me, is just Jericho. I think we're getting a match on Collision. I feel like that match could have been, that should be on Rampage. And then what match is it? Oh, Serena Deeb and Willow match. That I would like that on Collision. Like, priorities, priorities. All right, now this was a little weird. Like, I didn't expect this was happening, and maybe what they should have done or could have done is say, "Oh, we have a little extra time." No, that wouldn't have worked. But you could have said, "Oh, one of the matches or one of the segments went a little short, so we have a little extra time, so here's a little impromptu match." Instead, somewhere early in the night, we had an in-action for Daniel Garcia, and this was all to just set up something afterwards. But we got to see Rhett Titus Ring of Honor. I've gotten to go back and see like some of his very very early matches. He is somebody who came in with the Ring of Honor dojo, I believe, and built his way up. They mentioned that he was a U.S. Ring of Honor U.S. champion, I believe. But again, two different dimensions. Ring of Honor, he might win. Come here, he was going to lose. He did give a little, it like almost immediately gave a taunt. That's when you know you're gonna get like cleaned up. But he's trying to maximize his minutes, seconds really. Daniel Garcia pretty much, I guess, choked him out. I forget, but it was just very very quick. So then you had Cage of Agony, Gates of Cage. Cage of Agony. You had Cage of Agony come out. That's not a great name, by the way. Cages of Agony? Cage of. Okay, it's okay. It's okay. But anyway, Cage of Agony comes out, and there was some connection. I'm blanking. They showed it a little bit earlier in the night, but there was a reason for it to come out and beat up Garcia. Them beating up Garcia brought out MJF, and I wish they wouldn't have played his music. Just let him come out and do his thing. But eventually, MJF comes out and he's got a beef with Hanchisetto? No, I'm saying that wrong. Anyway, with the luchador that's with Cage of Agony. And again, but everybody tired. Apologies. Almost done. But he comes out, they come get overrun, and then the next thing you have as Hechiseto, there you go. Hechiseto puts him into a choke. Osprey comes out and he like beats them all up and pushes them away. Now I swear, I thought when this was happening, since it was 3-on-4, the bad guys were gonna beat up on the good guys, and then you would have Swerve come out, and then you could have because there was a face-off between Osprey and MJF, but you could have had a face-off between Swerve, Osprey, and MJF, and even Danielson if you wanted to. But you could have just had like this weird three-way thing to continue the parody. It 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 doesn't necessarily mean that Osprey will lose at the pay-per-view and then move into a program with MJF. But you get a sense that sooner than later, MJF and Osprey are going to, butt heads against one another. And is it going to be over the international title? Does Osprey lose at the pay-per-view, keep his belt, and then go into something with MJF? Does he win at the pay-per-view, gets the big belt, and then MJF like vies for it again? That feels like it's more Tony Khan's booking, more what AEW is at the moment. I don't know. It's still enough that it's up in the air. So I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm so afraid for Swerve, but it's okay. I just thought this was a bit something. Oh yeah, it also worked because at some point Daniel, and Osprey are going to get into it over the belt. I forgot if they have that booked already, but that's coming down the pipe, or at least Daniel has said that he's going to fight for that belt. Then you had another really good kind of backstage thing to set up a match where Osprey or Renee goes to Osprey and asks him about what's this thing with him and MJF. Osprey's like, I don't care about MJF. I'm just out there to help Daniel. Danielson? No, Daniel. Why do I feel like I'm saying that incorrectly? Anyway, I'm just out here to help Daniel, and I don't care about MJF. And you have Cage in the background being pushed back by 4 security guards. And look, that guy is huge. I can imagine it takes 4 guys to just keep him, anything. But he comes out, and he's all pissed off, and he's like, "Look, I'm going to challenge you for the belt. Put it up." And he like, Osprey's like, "Fine, bro. If this is what you want. This is what you got. Collision, you and me. I hope this is not. I don't want this to be. Yeah, I won't like bury this with negativity. I hope they put this in a decent spot for the two of them. I don't necessarily think that it needs to be a main event. We'll see what's happening. I know. Anyway, we'll see what's happening. But it's an interesting pairing. It's an interesting pairing. I really enjoy Cage. He's gonna lose, but I enjoy seeing Cage in matches, and he's got his kind of fixed set routine. You know, it's always impressive to me. Some people consider him a spots guy. I don't quite know what that means, other than like it's like big move, big move, big move with less focus on the things in the middle, which I get when it comes to him. But I enjoy seeing him. Some people think maybe he deserves to be. He had the trios title. I think he was an FTW person. I can't think of him being utilized with any other belt, but I'm blanking on what some of the other belts are at the moment. So I don't know. If he was in Ring of Honor, I imagine he'd be tearing through the ranks, but he's in AEW. And he's being used as he's being used. He's making good money. I don't know. I don't know. Like, the benefit of being able to be featured and showcased, which he's been on TV quite a bit, having a good contract, being able to wrestle outside if he wants to, and being able to focus on his body and other things is probably pretty nice. Pretty nice. All right, so for the last match of the night, we had Pac and we had Claudio Castagnoli with Daniel Bryanson on the commentary. And two excellent wrestlers in the ring. For the most part, uh, Claudio was selling a hip injury, which he kept throughout the night. Although I wouldn't have done the big swing. I wouldn't have done the big swing here. If you have a bad hip, and it like he sold it after the match, during the match, and it like limited him. Whereas with Bowens, it was something that was constant throughout the night. You could tell when there were moments of adrenaline. I felt like this was just one of those nights where you could have tried to do a big swing, and due to that, he just like had to let it go because his like hip wasn't up to it. I don't know. Personally, that was probably the only real mark on this match that like took me out of it. Otherwise, Pac's a bit of a slow starter. I felt weird when I saw there were 8 minutes left, knowing that they were probably going to do an overrun, but like 8 minutes. Just the idea of that as a main event kind of like took me out of it. Took me out of like just focusing on a match. It's like, oh, I can't imagine this is going to be much of a main event. Anyway, so it was hard hitting, people being thrown in the barricades and great moves. And, you have the speed with Pac, you got the strength with Claudio. You got the opposite from both because they both have those intrinsic qualities of like being strong ass wrestlers and being fast as hell. And Daniel Bryanson on the commentary, just like really marking out for his man. I don't know, but interestingly enough, Pac wins. Pac wins. Um, Claudio doesn't win, and I forget if Claudio or Pac went to shake his hand, but there was some moment of like a desired interaction, and instead of getting it, Claudio was just like "f that noise." He kind of went off, and I think Daniel Bryanson was covering for him, but even there was a bit of something. Oh yeah, that was really interesting. Like Claudio came out through the ring. There's a story going on there from when Claudio walked out. I think on Daniel Bryanson when he gave his hoorah speech, and then like speaking, like there was a backstage segment, and then there was something else. And I like all this time I've been like something's going on here. Are we getting the end of Claudio or maybe the breakdown of BCC? Maybe. And you know what? I'm here for that. Listen, they've been around for like 2 years. What are they going to do? They're not challenging for tag belts. The time for trios with them. You know, you got Wheeler doing okay in Ring of Honor. He's probably going to be on that pay per view. Is there any more benefit even coming out of it? Um, you have Moxley, who's always just tough as nails. He's not really a loser, as in he doesn't take the pin all that often. He's in Japan as well. You have Claudio. Maybe this is going to be a thing with Claudio and Daniel Bryanson and fighting over their ideologies. I don't know what it could be, but maybe this is a time. Oh, it's hard to say with Bryanson or Daniel. It's hard to say with him because he's okay with losing. He doesn't really have the desire to be on the top. He hasn't been at the top of the promotion yet. Has he had a belt? I don't think he's even had a belt yet. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's like Claudio's like, you know what? You just don't have you're not a killer. You're not a killer. You're soft. The reason why I'm not a killer is because I'm being around you and you just don't have it in you. You like to fight. You like to. In fact, during picture in picture, Daniel was talking about how he likes to be hit and how that's kind of messed up. It's like, there's masochists in the world. There are people who like to be beaten. So I don't know. I've come across people, and the people enjoy pain at times. So who am I to judge? Not my style, not my style. But who am I to judge? So maybe it's that. Maybe it's like you like fighting for fighting's sake too much. I was the world champion of Ring of Honor, and I want to be the world champion in AEW. And that sets Claudio on a path where he pushes BCC to the side and he moves on from there. But otherwise, I don't know. I don't know what this is setting up. It's just something is brewing, and I hope it's not something. I felt like they had let it go for a little bit, and I'm hoping that these crumbs that have been placed are going to be picked up, swept up, vacuumed up, and we figure out what is happening in that whole situation. Okay, scholars, thank you very much for in sitting with me today as we talked about AEW's Dynamite. If you like this kind of thing, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And if you have any comments, questions, or any critiques, please make sure you put them into the comments below. But all that I ask, if you do this, is just show me a little mutual respect. You respect me, I respect you. The one rule I exist on in this world is the golden rule. And I hope that you do as well. For if we all lived by it, if we every single one of us lived by it, I feel like the world would be a much better place. Anyway, I hope to see you all again. And please make sure you check out my future reviews and watch alongs. Until then, goodbye, everybody.